Hello and welcome, I'm Arumba. Thank you for joining me. So we have a brand new patch coming up for Europa Universalis 4. It's going live today on June 30th. Now this is a very different patch than normal. This is actually a big patch, but it's a beta patch, meaning that you're not going to get the patch update automatically. You're going to have to go into your Steam settings. You go Steam, you right click on EU4, go to Properties, go to Betas, and then opt in to this patch. But this is patch 1.13. You might be, if you were just watching a couple days ago, or you just were playing the game, you might have noticed that we got patch 1.12. So this is a fairly significant patch. There's a lot of changes, but again, it's a beta patch because my understanding is that a whole bunch of the crew at Paradox are going on vacation for summer because this is the best time of the year, and they didn't want to push out a patch without knowing for sure if it was 100% good. So they're making it a beta patch, kind of an opt-in type thing. So it looks really good to me. I really think that pretty much everyone should opt into it because there's a number of bug fixes and also balance changes that I think are going to make the game a lot better. So, without further ado, let's go through the changes together. This is the actual full and inclusive patch notes. I did not do any kind of paring down of any of the lines. So first off, reduced effective autonomy on war score cost, meaning that high autonomy provinces are now going to cost more war score to take than they used to. Because it used to be that if you had a high autonomy province, it would drastically reduce the war score cost and make it so you could take it for almost nothing. It was most notable when you would attack like Ming or something and they had 50% autonomy on every province. The build cost of an earlier built obsolete building is now discounted from the build cost of an upgraded building. So my understanding, again, I haven't had a chance to play with the patch yet, but my understanding of this is that if you're building like a fort level 1 and then you build a fort level 2 in the same building, in the same province, then the build cost of the earlier built building, the tier 1 fort, is now discounted from the build cost of the upgraded building. So I'm assuming that a tier 2 fort's more expensive than a tier 1 fort. Pretty sure it is. It's like, what, 400 gold instead of 200 gold? So now it's only going to be 200 gold to make it the upgrade. I believe in provinces that don't even have a fort, for example, you could just build straight to a level 2 fort, and it would cost 400 gold. So there's really no, it's more of a fix, really, than a change, I think. It is now 100% more expensive for primitives to develop their provinces. The primary reason for this is that primitives, meaning people in the New World, like Native Americans and things, they have nothing to spend their points on, and they can just upgrade their development and get huge amounts of increased development. And then later on, because of the catch-up mechanic that they have when they do reform their government, where they go and they just instantly get free technology, there's like no reason whatsoever to do anything but development, because you can just catch right back up. So it's a balancing mechanic, and it makes sense. I think that it's justifiable. The cost to improve provinces is no longer increased by 5 for each time it is developed, and the increased cost to develop a province is now increased from 1% to 2% per existing level. And, well, let's just combine all three of these together here. You can no longer improve a province's base tax, production, or manpower if its value is already more than that of the other two combined. So, it gives an example. If base tax is 3 and production and manpower both 1, you can only improve production and manpower. So for example, you could see things like this. You could do 1, 2, 1, but you cannot do 1, 3, 1. You could do 4, 8, 4. So you can still specify, like you can focus on one province's like key feature, if it's got a good trade good, or if it's got high manpower efficiency for some reason, or if it's an estuary or something. I don't know. I mean, whatever. You can focus your provinces, but you're gonna have to balance the development a little bit, which is good. I mean, I just think that makes sense. It's kind of the way that the AI plays. You know, the AI doesn't really just do one upgrade in one province. But more importantly, like look at the cost of what we're gonna be paying for development. It used to be that development number 1 would be like 50, and then after that it would be 55 plus 1% of the total number of developments, so plus 1%. And then after that, it would be 60 plus 2%. And then it would be 65 plus 3%. And so you can see that this gets really, really big, really, really fast. Like 5 upgrades in, you're already at like 75. Where with the new system, it's going to be like this. It's going to be 50, and then it's going to be 51, because it's going to be 50 plus 2%, which is going to be 51. Then it's going to be 50 plus 4%. And then 50 plus 6%, and you can see that this is actually just going to work out to 50, 51, 52, 53, 54. It's just going to stay much, much, much smaller than this scaling system did. So what that's going to mean is more development upgrades. And also, somewhere down near the bottom of this patch notes list, there's a bug fix where discounts that affected the development cost, like say later on in the game when you get the scaling 25% and then 50% bonuses to reducing the cost of autonomy and stuff, that stuff is actually going to affect development increases as well. That was only affecting the +5, but it's supposed to affect the entire thing, including base. So we should see development be much, much more interactive, more clicking, more useful. Alright, English Civil War can now end with the English government switching government. Cool. You now need at least admin, diplo, or military tech 5 on your ruler to get Janissaries, so the disasters are available to trigger immediately. Okay, makes sense. Blockaded is now a simple fixed modifier instead of using incomprehensible scaling. Less paradox math. That's a good fix. So incomprehensible scaling, yeah, it didn't make any sense. Sometimes on some provinces it would be like a much larger modifier than others. I'm very curious to see what the simple fixed modifier is. Hopefully it's just something like -75%. Like, if you blockade a province, they get less income. Makes sense. And it's just simple. It just makes it easier to figure out what's going on. Wine is now worth 2.5 at start and increases by 25% instead of 50% from later events. I believe it used to be 2, so it used to be 2 plus 50% equals 3, and now it's going to be 2.5. 2.5 plus 25%. Whoa, so it's slightly buffed, it's just all around. It's going to be worth more after the event, and it's worth more in the beginning. So any province or country that has lots of wine, you should rejoice. Probably France. French wine. Feels like that music might be a little bit too loud now. There we go. Alright, reduced the trade power from provinces. Don't know exactly by how much. I'm guessing it's slight, maybe half off, I'm not sure. Reduced trade power effect from important centers of trade and tolls. Reduced maintenance of light ships. So basically this is a shift. There was way too much provincial trade power, which can propagate upstream, and not enough trade power coming from ships. So now there's less trade power from provinces, which means less trade power propagation, which means that ships are more important automatically, but now also light ships are cheaper in maintenance. So I'm curious of this. Normally the maintenance cost of a ship is tied to the build cost, but I guess this is just an extra modifier on maintenance? Or did they actually reduce the build cost as well? Probably not. It doesn't say that, but... Fabricate claim is now countered by the local spy defense in the province you are fabricating on rather than the capital. So that's relevant because local spy defense, I believe, is factored. There's some factors involved, like depending on your development, the higher the development of a province, the better the spy defense is. So fabricating on high development provinces could be harder. 9 times out of 10, this makes no difference. Getting caught is a minor thing, but if you're playing in the HRE and you get caught fabricating in a high base tax province, it's bad. You get lots of aggressive expansion. Although it did get nerfed in the last patch. It was 7.5 AE, now it's only 5, so I don't know. It is what it is. Countries with the capital in a colonial region can now auto-discover provinces in colonial regions since they can't use Hunt for the 7 cities. Cool. Parliament issues that boost values of provinces will now only do so in 1 province per debate. It did still seem pretty overpowered to get two free development every 10 years. Or 20 years or whatever it was. Some parliament bribes that were far too cheap were made more expensive. Oh great. Rank 2 countries now get an extra diplomat, and rank 3 countries get 1 free leader. So I believe where this came from is that when they removed all the unique buildings like the embassy and the war college and the naval admiralty, we lost a lot of free modifiers. We lost our free diplomat, we lost our free leader pool, we lost, you know, inflation reduction, all kinds of stuff. And so they're trying to find ways to add these things back into the game, because running the game with just 2 diplomats for most of the game is really tough. Rank 2 countries, meaning if you are a duchy, you don't get the diplomat. If you are a kingdom, you do get the free diplomat. So a lot of countries now are going to just start the game earlier with an extra diplomat. Like England is a kingdom. Hell, Byzantium is rank 3 at the start of the game, so they get a free leader and a free diplomat. So that could be cool. Ambrosian Republic now has a 4-year cycle up from 3. I assume that changes the Republican tradition cost upon re-election. That's what normally happens. The longer the cycle is, the more the Republican tradition cost. Large nation in HRE and small nation in HRE vote modifiers are now based on development instead of number of provinces. Makes a lot of sense. Reduced imperial authority change from the number of princes, foreign control, and free cities. Reduced it from number of princes, foreign control, and free cities. So nerf to imperial authority. Countries on a different continent than the current emperor are no longer eligible for emperor. This screams exploit to me. If you are the emperor and you exile you move your capital by isolating your capital and then moving it to another continent, doesn't that mean you can only be the only emperor? Maybe? I don't know. What this is supposed to do is prevent things like Congo from getting elected emperor. Congo is a Catholic nation in Africa, or they become Catholic quite often. We don't want them becoming the emperor for some strange reason. Tuscan traditions now are increased from 1 to 2 papal influence to match the generic Italian traditions, even though the papal state will always rival you and you will never get any papal influence. Daimyo traditions now have plus 25% land force limits instead of time to fabricate claims. Daimyo idea, armies of the Daimyo, is now 25% manpower instead of plus 50% force limits. Okay. Subject force limit contribution was changed to vassal force limit contribution and only increases land force limits from vassals and marshes. Numbers were increased to compensate. Only increases land force limits from vassals and marches. Okay. Subject force limits contributions. Is this talking about the actual just modifier itself, or like ideas that have subject force limit contribution? I'm not sure. But either way, numbers were increased to compensate, so I'm sure it's fine. A number of ideas that gave minus 2% prestige decay were reduced to 1%. Because prestige is so hard to get now, ideas that gave minus 2% prestige decay reduction were actually kind of overpowered, which kind of makes sense. Rebalance trade ideas to give more trade power to compensate for lost trade power from trade efficiency. An undisclosed patch note change in the last patch was that trade efficiency no longer affects your trade power. Trade efficiency only affects trade income. So you can, in the current version of the game, embargo people at a trade efficiency loss and not lose trade power in trade notes, which is kind of weird. You can basically embargo everyone, and all that does is reduce the amount of income that you make. It does not affect your trade power at all. And so they ended up doing this as well. Rebalance trade ideas to give more trade power to compensate for the lost trade power from trade efficiency. So early on in the game, when you have no trade power, like no trade efficiency at all, you can't go negative. You might as well just embargo all the things. But later on, when you start to actually pick up some trade efficiency, or if you like hire a trade efficiency advisor, it'd be a good idea to not do that and only embargo your rivals. Horse artillery policy is now 10% artillery power, down from 20%. It was very powerful, so got nerfed. Organized construction economic ideas now minus 10% build cost, down from minus 20%. This is an economic idea in the economic idea group. It's build cost, not development. So it's just gold. It's going to cost more gold if you take this idea group now than it used to. It was pretty powerful, but I don't know. Money still seems to be pretty easy to come by in the game. Most papal actions now give 20-year modifiers instead of one-time boosts. Cool, I like that. I hope that like manpower recovery rate, like for instance, is a 20-year modifier. Instead of just giving you like 300 manpower, it'll actually give you 10% manpower recovery or something, which would be way better than 300 manpower, especially if you have like a 50,000 manpower pool. Now possible to switch between the Buddhist faiths. Alright, cool. Reforms trade focus now gives trade efficiency instead of trade steering. Big buff. Reforms war focus is now 10% land and naval morale, down from 15. Slight nerf. Rebels will now once again cancel missionaries when they take control of a province. Ouch, that sucks. Be very active on your rebels, on your rebel patrol, because you don't want to be 90% through converting a province and have rebels spawn, and 30 days later they cancel your conversion, especially if it's a difficult to convert province. Overlord now gets dragged into Protectorate's defensive war when subjugating them. Okay, so that's upon subjugation, not just when they get declared a pawn. So you can't subjugate someone who's already at war and then just not protect them. Increased diplomatic power costs for forcing a union partner to change culture. This doesn't actually really make them like convert their land or anything for you. All that it does is make integration faster because you have the same culture group. So I don't know, I don't really find the value in doing it. I'd rather just have it take longer and not spend hundreds of diplo points to convert their culture. Which religion a released country or vassal gets is now based on the majority religion in their core provinces, with previous religion counting as 50% larger than it actually is. So, if you conquer land, and your intention is to release a country and have them core it for you, I understand it to be like this then. Let's say you conquer some cheap territory, you convert a couple of the provinces really quick, and then you release the vassal. As long as you convert the right ratio so that the overall percentage of provinces that they get is the religion you want, now the released government will be your religion again. Where before, they were always wrong. It was always the wrong culture. It was always just whatever you didn't want it to be. Now you can actually force it to be what you want, but it takes a little bit of work. So that's a good change. It does allow vassal feeding, again, maybe a little bit. We'll see. Vassal feeding got nerfed quite a bit the last few patches. Chinese and Indian tech groups now start at Tech 3. This is a pretty major change. This means that like Ming and a lot of the country, well, all the Alright hordes and stuff like that, they're going to be Tech 3 instead of Tech 2, which means that they have a big morale bonus, and they're that much closer to being able to get idea groups and stuff at Tech 5. I mean, it's a big change. I think Oirat is a Chinese tech group, right? I think so. Well, they actually might be, no, they're not Chinese tech group. They are, whatever it's called, Nomad tech group. Okay, so the Chinese and Indians are Tech 3, not Nomads. Okay. Development and administrative efficiency is now gained at 20% at a time at 1630, 1700, and 1760 for a total of 60%, up from 50%. So it's a buff overall, and I believe you get it a little bit earlier. I'm not 100% sure. Maybe not. Maybe it's the same initial start date, and it's just spread out evenly over the three periods. But overall, it's a buff to the percentage, and I believe, again, that this now does affect base development cost as well as the scaling development cost. So, pretty significant. Reduced effective war exhaustion on recruitment speed. Okay. Probably somehow tied into, like, boats taking 3 years to build. Only navies now take on arrival attrition. Holy crap! I already knew this was here, but I can't tell you how excited I am about this. This is the absolute best change in the game ever! So, what this means is that when your armies end in a province, if they are going to stop, for instance, to start a siege, they will not suffer on-arrival attrition, meaning that your one stack that you sent in to siege down an unguarded province with no fort no longer has to wait until the next monthly tick to get its 10-man reinforcement, because when it arrived it suffered 1% attrition, meaning it lost 10 troops, and now it doesn't have 1,000 men, so it can't do the siege. Now it'll just arrive and be at 1,000 men. It will still suffer monthly attrition, so you'll still suffer the 10% attrition, or the 1% attrition on the actual siege tick. However, that's also when reinforcement happens, so we never have to worry about armies arriving in provinces and just not being at the force limit necessary to do the siege. Or another great example, let's say you send in, I don't know, the number of artillery that you need to get like a 3 bonus on your artillery roll, and you suffer 1% attrition. So now instead of having 6,000 artillery, you have 5,940. And now you got to wait a month to actually get that extra bonus. Well, it's not going to be that way anymore because you just arrive with the right number of troops. Now, I believe, from talking to Wiz, to compensate for this, when there is a siege, the attrition in that province will apply to all armies in the province, whether they are part of the siege or not. So if you can't just like, if you march through any province that has an active siege, you will suffer siege attrition. So there's still balancing mechanics in there to like, you will suffer a lot of attrition, you're going to lose troops, but just the fact that you don't have to micro around this stupid little on-arrival attrition thing is gone. I don't really know why navies still suffer on-arrival attrition. In fact, I didn't even realize that they did, but it's a pretty good idea to not have your navies stop in an ocean body then, because they'll suffer on-arrival attrition, but whatever. That's great. That's such a good change. I'm so happy about that. We could just stop right here. Just stop right here. It's the best patch note I've ever seen. In order to demand provinces, you must now be able to make them your core, if not already, either directly or eventually through other provinces you are taking at the same time. So what this prevents is, well, first off, it makes it so, a couple things. You can't take land accidentally that you can't core, so that's good. You can't force AI to take land that they can't core, which is actually good, because it's kind of an exploit. But the bad, and maybe this is, I don't know, there is one situation I can think of where this would just be frustrating. You can't take land now that you know you can't core, but you intend to release a vassal there. So, I don't know, maybe this is going to make countries more contiguous. They're going to be next to each other more often instead of being kind of like border gore spread out nasty. But at the same time, I don't know, it's interesting. We'll see. The amount of aggressive expansion, prestige, power projection, etc. you can get from a single province is now capped at the equivalent of 30 development. Development over 30 in a single province will not count towards those factors. Okay. Large nations now get more aggressive expansion based on total development. That's fine because they can handle it. And aggressive expansion is really kind of low right now. Lowered aggressive expansion impact when taking core of a vassal. Increased army tradition gain from sieges. Army tradition is really hard to get in the current version of the game, so I'm curious to see how much this does this by. Increased base naval force limits to +12 for independent nation and +4 for subject nation. Okay, great. So we'll have more boats. Part of the reason for this is that there were some undisclosed kind of changes to it. It used to be that you got +5 naval force limit per extra merchant beyond the first 2. That's gone now. You also used to get base land force limit, I think it was, from... That was it. It was from increased mercenary pool size. Having an increased mercenary pool does not give you more force limits now. So it's a little bit more transparent as a mechanic. Force limits are just basically all tied to development. But now we have a higher increase for naval force limit. You now get army tradition for each fully maintained non-obsolete fort up to a maximum of +1. I believe this is +1 per year, which means that you will trend towards 20. The amount that you get depends on how many forts you have compared to your total development level. No single entry of a peace treaty can now cost more than 300 diplomatic power. For example, releasing a huge junior PU partner can no longer cost more than 300. The cap used to be 999, now it's 300. AI. We have a lot of patch notes to read here, my goodness. The AI, alright, so where are we? No longer willing to join offensive wars where the attacker is attempting to force a union on a great power, unless this is a succession war. So, for instance, if you are England and you try to force a union on France, you will not have people join you. Will no longer designate historical rivals as a march under any circumstances. Will now refuse to be vassalized by a country that owns its cores. I believe this is by peaceful offering. Like, if you offer them vassalization, they will always have a modifier to say no. I don't think that means that they can just refuse you if you force vassalize. I'm not sure, though. Now more reluctant to ally countries with a significantly weaker military potential. Alright, that's good, fine, sure. More keen to accept offers of support independence when disloyal. Will no longer be friendly towards countries it is at war with. Now less likely to ally much weaker countries that already have powerful allies. Now more willing to ally weak countries that are threatened by a rival. Papal AI is now less likely to be militaristic. That's good. Papal AI was kind of crazy in the last patch. Will no longer care to colonize Arctic provinces if they don't already own territory in the same area. Good. Much more keen on building shipyards to speed up their fleet constructions. Fixed a bug where AI countries created by an event would immediately disband their event troops due to not having a budget set. Colonial nations are now willing to spend more of their budget on colonists. Less priority on developing provinces bordering other countries. So overall, AI smarter with economy. Ideas. So this should effectively prevent... I thought I saw that you cannot colonize Arctic. Maybe it was just based on this thing. They should... You're not going to see Spanish Siberia. They're not going to just colonize Arctic provinces for the sake of it. They're going to colonize the countries they should. Will no longer ignore restriction on not being able to pick more than 50% of an idea group category. That's fine. Rebel stacks that are too weak to besiege a fortress will now go elsewhere if available, or if able. At war, the AI will now sortie against weak rebel stacks. Fixed a bug where the AI would not gather newly built armies due to incorrectly calculating moves as unsafe. They will now build more transports. They will now retreat from naval battles that it is clearly losing. Good. Less interested in launching naval invasions of minor allies in a war, especially if those minor allies are out of supply range. Good. So, from now on, if England is at war with Burgundy, who's called in Venice, then AI England should not go and invade Venice. It should go after freaking Burgundy, because that's who they're fighting. Should now avoid walking into provinces that are effectively suicide because of natives. That's good. Fix the bug where the AI would ignore other countries' units when considering whether a province had enough supply limit for them under certain circumstances. I have noticed a lot in 1.12 that the AI just makes massive stacks and just really annihilates its manpower. So hopefully that bug fixes that problem. Fix the bug where the AI would consider the strength of attached units when calculating power relative to another country, leading to increased liberty desire, etc. Fixed a bug where the AI would not look at the size of attached units when considering whether a province had low supply for their army. Alright. Interface. Added an alert for when you can pick a new church aspect. Added an alert for when an explorer is ready to explore. Added larger versions of Diplomacy View for higher resolutions. So essentially, the bigger Diplomacy View mod just got added to the base game. Awesome. Fantastic. That means that I need to update my mod pack. Tooltip for Republican government form now shows their cultural sufferance bonus. Alright, I have no idea what that means. Country Trade View now displays global trade power instead of global trade income, as the latter was retired. Country Trade View now displays global trade power instead of global trade income. Okay. I believe that's tied to the change on trade efficiency versus the other thing. Country Stability View. Rebels that have no armies and are not occupying provinces in your countries are no longer shown. That's kind of a bug fix, really. Key bindings. Can I use the K key to consolidate regiments? No. That's wrong. G is the consolidate regiments button. Why would you do this? Well, no. G is the combine armies button. Consolidate regiments. Okay. No. I don't like that one. Can I use the M key to detach mercenaries or obsolete ships? No. It's wrong. M is not right. Can I use U to reorganize regiments? No. That's the B key. It's a B key. Use my mod. It's better. Shortcut for forced march. I'm not going to let that happen. I'm going to fix it. In my mod, at least. Shortcut for forced march and toggle armies is now F. This is not going to stay the same. Because in multiplayer, tab is chat. And they changed find province to tab, not realizing that tab is how you talk to people, and forced march got moved from F to capital F. It's wrong. Shortcut for forced march is not, it should not be F, but use my mod. This is wrong. Anyway, you can now see the government rank of different countries during country selection. Cool. Improved development macro builder to be sorted. Sortable! Yay! You can sort the macro builder. Cool. Show more information. Awesome. Can't wait to see it. HRE map mode now displays free cities and should be much clearer about which provinces are actually in the empire and who is emperor and elector. Cool. Simple terrain map mode now uses a different color scheme. They change it almost every patch, it seems like. Find province displays it in a flashing highlight around found province to make it easier to locate. Awesome! That'll help me tremendously. Peace view. Outcome of empire religious war more clearly displayed. Fixed a pop-up saying that you made peace with an enemy if someone in a war returns cores to you in a peace deal. Made it more clear that you will remain a subject when proposing peace for an independence war without an independence treaty by color-coding the notice and moving it upward in the list. Colonization View now shows colony tax, production, manpower, and development values. Colonization View. Okay, so that's when you click on the province. Got it. Return province dialog is now more descriptive of actual effects. Okay. Improved clarity of power projection tooltip. Improved for information in province tooltip. Added base cost and modifiers to reduce war exhaustion button tooltip. So now when you hover over the reduce war exhaustion tooltip, or the reduce war exhaustion button, you'll see that the reason why it costs more is because you're playing as England and you have lots of parliament seats. Added base cost and modifiers to reduce inflation button, if any modifiers are active. Added maintenance cost to cost tooltip when building ships. Tooltip on tech group and Diplo screen now shows tech group tech penalty. Split advisor death message into two messages, one for active advisor you have employed, and one for when another advisor dies. Awesome. Cost to upgrade ships is now visible in the upgrade tooltip, even if the ships are at sea. Tweak treasure fleet tooltip for when fleets cannot be sent, and made it so that the progress bar now appears regardless of whether any gold accumulated thus far, if there are gold mines. Tooltip on building template macro map icon now warns you Jesus. Tooltip on building template macro map icon now warns you actual costs are higher when construction goes over force limits. Okay, that's good. Number of stars for commanding leader is now also shown on the combat map icon. Reorganize button is now disabled if you don't have exactly 2 units selected. This doesn't really matter to me anymore because the reorganize button was really only used as an exploit to avoid on-arrival attrition. There is now information on the unit panel on how much an army can loot each month, and its tooltip explains the derivation. Sweet! Separatist and nationalist rebels now use unit graphics from the nation they want to join or form. User modding. Console command idea dump is now available to modders. Cool. Added console command bear has landed. Everyone needs to try that. I believe that what this is if you can't do it in Iron Man because you can't use the console, but I believe what this is, there was someone who made the connection. There's a new idea group that was added into the game called the Jan Meyer, like it's the polar bears or something. I think you can turn yourself into polar bears. So try out the console command bear has landed, but I could be wrong. I haven't tested it yet. Edit inflation sheet. All right. Added console command diplomacy info defines karma restore on ruler death. Border color. Yeah, these things don't really matter too much. Exile ruler no longer crashes a save. Scripting changes. Lowered age requirement of die please die. Arctic terrain renamed to glacier. Okay. Added some decisions. Form the Netherlands now secularizes the country if it's a theocracy. I'm not going to read all these, they take too long. Added a whole bunch of ideas. Yarkandi, Luxembourg, Nizhny Novgorod, Ye, Lyon. Added a general idea set for French miners. Nubian, Sapmi, Galicia, Nevers, Medri, Bari, Dali, Andhra, Kangra, Orleanais, Ormuzi, Greek, Moluccan, Ladakh, Baluchistan, Mutapa, Mazovia, Kangra. Some changes to terrain. Things like that. Bug fixes. Okay, so there's a couple in here that are important. Hopefully I can locate them without it taking 20 minutes. We'll see. You now become the emperor when you unite Japan. Pretenders no longer change the government from elective to another monarch type. Mods will no longer block random new world. Hey, that's cool. That only took like 6 months. Send and cancel will now use keyboard consistent shortcuts. Return and escape. That's awesome. I think maybe that will finally allow me to get my keyboard shortcuts working properly. There's a bug that was preventing certain things from not actually working. But enter and, return and escape, those are wrong. It should be Z and C. Just so you know, Wiz. Damaged trade ships will now consider the ports of subjects when deciding where to repair. Cool. Hopefully they will actually choose provinces that have things that increase repair speed. Fixed AI, always declining sale of ships due to a bad unit type check. Cool. So we can sell ships to AI again. Fixed manpower be gained inversely on stack wipe. A regiment with 0 men would give the most MP back to country. I didn't even realize you got men back on a stack wipe, honestly. But okay. Fixed so that allied objective... I mean, you get just so much aggressive... so much war exhaustion that it sucks. Even if you did get manpower back. Peace. Wrong diplomatic power cost shown in certain cases for cede provinces, release, and become vassal. Hopefully we can just eventually trust the tooltip. Fix an issue where you could not select building upgrades unless you had enough cash to build them from scratch. Cool. Fixed wrong scope for is part of HRE equals no checks. Having more than 7 cities no longer gives additional monthly imperial authority past the 7th. Peace. Aggressive expansion and diplo reductions when taking cores with subject reconquest CB are now correctly applied. Excellent! I can finally, you can finally conquer countries using your vassals' CBs and not actually have to pay diplo points for them. You no longer get pop-ups about unit arrival for exploration missions. Awesome. Don't want to read these all. There's too many. They're just minor things. There's a strait that's more straight now. You can no longer humiliate and show strength at the same time against a vassal or against a country. Peace view no longer can be combined when making a target vassal or protected or demanding a personal union. So you can't humiliate someone you're about to vassalize. Got it. Cool. Fort maintenance is now impacted by inflation. To be fair, that makes perfect sense. Council of Trent is no longer something exclusively for Protestants. Development manpower tooltip will no longer show negative values anymore. Okay. Karma moves 25% toward the middle. I still hate the karma mechanic. I really don't like it at all. It's no longer possible to downgrade ships with the upgrade button by merging them in fleets with upgradable ships. What? That's funny. Okay. Humiliate rival and show strength peace options can no longer be selected if the target country will cease to exist after war. Makes sense. Missing new line and envoy travel time in a country trade view displays now incorrect thing. Fix the 10 colonist on arrival exploit by restricting it if the colony has below 10 settlers. And there's one more here at the bottom. I thought I saw. What was it? It was important. Nope, don't know where it went. You can no longer be able to select provinces in Macro Builder if in any of the modes. It wasn't intended. Cool. Alright, well anyway, that's it. That's the patch note. Colonial nations will now join wars of the Overlord when they form. Awesome. So yeah, there's just a bunch of good changes. I think the ones that I'm most excited about are definitely the on-arrival attrition thing, the rescaling of the development cost, the just I like it. I can't wait. I can't wait to try it. I also am really looking forward to having an extra diplomat again. Looking for the AI not being an idiot. Hopefully the AI will be smarter again as well. I'm still hoping that the AI will finally start piecing out non-co-belligerent minor parties in a war so that they can actually end the war with the war leader. But we'll see. So, alright, well that is beta patch 1.13. Once again, if you want this patch, you have to go into the betas, and maybe it's even available already while I'm making this video. It is not, but you got to go in there and you got to opt into it. It should be available later today, and I look forward to seeing you, as always, in the next video. So, thanks for watching everyone. See you soon.